welcome to today's episode of the Further Insights podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Schuster, and incredibly honored and I'd say overjoyed to be joined by our guest today, Greg Cangialosi. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I say us as if it's just me. There's a couple other people back here. I'm not like...
We got the crew in the house.
Yeah. Me, myself, and I. Yeah. But no, big shout out to Austin Litz and David Hersenberg for their incredible production help. But Greg, it's great to have you. It's been a while since we've seen each other. Pandemics, state move, cross state moves, all kinds of different things happened in the last few years for both of us. But I guess, can you give me the 10,000 foot overview of what's going on in your life and maybe kind of introduce yourself to the guests? The audience,
sure.
Excuse me.
Well, first, thanks for having me. It has been a while. As my daughter was saying the other night at dinner, it feels like we're coming out of like this weird 5-year window. It's very bizarre. So I've been spending my time right now doing what really turns out to be one of the only things I know how to do, which is start companies that hopefully solve problems. And at this stage of my life, I'm working on a technology platform to help family caregivers take care of their aging loved ones by a SaaS platform that we've integrated with Medicare. And so for a lot of reasons, we have this aging boom that's happening in our country. The healthcare system, as you know, is pretty fractured and broken. And so the family caregivers who are left with managing and taking care of their loved ones are typically done so in the dark. And so my platform, what it does is it integrates with the health plan the person's on and easily breaks out the medications, the doctors, the conditions they're being treated for, what medications they're on, a timeline of their health events, and then actions that data and helps people be able to intervene, mitigate, and feel more empowered and confident taking care of their loved ones. So that's the current problem.
Weren't you running a ticketing platform before this?
It's been a fairly straight and narrow path,
Right, you were in venture capital before this.
So it was, emergency health. If you want me to go back to the beginning, I can just do the Cliff Notes.
Yeah, let's do the 10,000 foot overview.
The 10,000 foot overview.
I'm sorry, let's see the deep dive here, actually. Let's go a little further back into the beginning. Like, how did you get from your origins into health tech ultimately?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Jersey, born in New York City, grew up on the Jersey Shore, and I just, skipping through high school, total skater, a little bit of a rebel. For some reason, I got certified to become an emergency medical technician when I was 16. And so that's really my only connection to healthcare, if you can believe it. I'm 51 now. And so that was it.
Except for, going to the doctor and dealing with
Except for being a consumer like everybody else. That's really from being able to see it on the front lines outside of a consumer. That's it, which was pretty exciting. And that's actually what got me down here to go to UMBC for the emergency health program. Got through that 2 years into it, realized I didn't want to be a paramedic or a healthcare administrator. And so I got my degree in English.
What changed from that kind of conviction into questioning it?
I just thought the pathways were starting to get really clear for me. So it was like you can do that or pre-med or get into healthcare administration of some sort. And none of that was even remotely interesting to me. What I think I realized was I was really connected to the adrenaline and the ability to help people. And that was what drove the interest there a lot. And then once I got to the actual, you could do this for a living. So it was it was like American literature that inspired me to get into just to finish out school with an English degree where I could read and write. But I was really exposed to the internet because it was dating myself.
Did you leave being able to read and write?
I love it. Listen, it's one of the greatest skills. It really is. I've used my degree all throughout my life for all my various chapters and journeys that I'm about to tell you. But at school, though, so I was part of a fraternity called Lambda Chi Alpha, and these were the information system and computer science folks. So they were the ones who were teaching me the internet, which was really interesting.
What year was this, if you can date it?
So this was 92, 93. Right. So we were not dialing up at home yet, just to put it in perspective. Nothing
floppy disks at best.
At best, right? And so, but there's two things that happened really. I think that started my career as an entrepreneur on campus was, I was on the student events board from day one, and I was by the time we were in junior, senior year, I really have a passion for music, as you know, and so it was really cool to be able to work and put on the events and help attract some of the talent that we had a good run there for a while. And that was like, I don't know if you guys remember the Blind Melon shows, and we had Bush and Alanis Morissette. Primus played the Field House. We had Live. We had Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Diggable Planets. God, we have Soup Dragons. We had a lot of cool talent coming through. Not that wasn't me putting on all that stuff, but really activating and working with outside promotions to get that going. That, and then it was, I guess, the senior year where, speaking of floppy disk, one of my fraternity brothers came over, and my 286 that was sitting in my desk at home gave me one of those and said, "This is going to change your life," and installed this thing called the TIA application in Netscape 1.0 and allowed the computer to dial into the mainframe at school and connect to the internet. And so those two things, in terms of being able to assemble events, put on concerts, get the marketing going, and then leveraging the internet from day one, turned out to be two foundational skill sets that it turned out to be the next, my entire career, continuing to refine even to this day.
What was the first thing you did when you got connected to the internet? Do you recall?
I remember, pulling up, we were talking about texts, really based, HTML text really, and images took forever to load, so you'd sit there and see a JPEG or, a file just load in like pixel by pixel by pixel. I don't remember actually what the first thing I did was.
Just trying to see what happened, right? You just plugged in and just like,
it was so fascinating. Yeah. I probably went to umbc.edu because I think that was like the only thing that, in Netscape, and, it was so early on back then. So, but it was really interesting to watch the fundamental architecture and, infrastructure of the internet start from the ground up, from literally 14.4 dial-up speeds on the modems all the way up to where we are now with fiber and satellite, and how the increase of broadband has fundamentally transformed, every industry. And how people have leveraged it to, create hopefully more good than bad.
Have you felt that same sense of like awe with AI or anything since that moment, or for you is that just like a pretty paradigmatic thing?
So this is, I would say, and not to, I know this has been said before, but this is probably like the similar feeling that I've got to that moment with the disc being handed to me and saying like, this is going to change your life. Like that is what I feel like now we're in again, as fundamental, foundational shifting, technological, tectonic shift we're in right now.
I tend to agree. So yeah, so much to talk about with AI. We're going to get to that in a minute.
I got way off track. So
no, this is great actually, because I'm riding the wave with you, and we've known each other for so long that I'm really just excited to learn more about your backstory. We met through the live music scene, and then you kind of helped me come up in the entrepreneurial scene here in Baltimore and the Baltimore tech scene. But before that, hearing kind of that intro is awesome, and knowing that music's a part of it's cool. But I guess when you look at that moment with the floppy disk to like your jump into entrepreneurship, like the real jump, not just like when I put on shows, make some money. Like what was that kind of moment for you?
It's a great segue back to music for a minute. So the first jump out of school really was, here I am, I've got this thing, we're talking like, let me try to phrase out here, maybe 96 now. So,
you said Blind Melon, so like I'm in MTV world in my mind.
So the shows, the Blind Melon show, all that was kind of, I was on the tail end of wrapping up my time there, and it was great. We had Don Wayner, local promoter, was doing the shows, the bigger shows, and actually that's where I met Tim Walther originally. We had God Street Wine come through, and as one of Tim's first gigs,
they're back at it too now.
He's doing a tour right now. Yeah, he pounded the phones and found me, and he was like, one of the first like flyer jobs when it was Walther Productions. And so that's how we met. There's a lot of really cool experiences there. But I when I graduated, I started putting on shows. And so that was my first, somebody once told me if you wanted to be a promoter, just take $10,000 of cash, burn it in a trash can, and be okay with it. And so I was like, well, that sounds painful. Of course, I ended up doing that, several times over.
It's 10,000 hours.
Trying to be a promoter. Yeah, it's a tough job.
That's a real statement.
But I was always attracted to, so I put on a bunch of shows, back in the day. We did a bunch of shows at the Lithuanian Hall. I did Israel Vibrations, Burning Spear. We brought Robert Hunter in. I used to do reggae nights at the 8x10 on Wednesday. There's a bunch of shows that, I was in and around involved in. We did Solar Circus New Year's Eve with a band called The Recipe at the Lithuanian Hall too. That was a trip.
But it sounds like you weren't like convinced that was your career path.
It was
you just
not.
You love music. You like being in the behind the scenes element of it. It sounds like.
Yeah, and like what I really started leaning towards was these skills that go back to school, right? And the ones that my bros taught me about. This is like early internet, so I pivoted to seeing the promise of the internet, and so I turned around and said, I'm going to not promote shows. I'm going to start building websites, not knowing really how to do it, but knowing how it worked. And so I built the 8x10s website, and I built a bunch of the businesses around my local community, and that's where I learned the power of email. And so I had this guy write this script where people can drop their email. It sounds like totally basic these days, but capture email addresses and start emailing text-based emails to marketing and promotions.
Blue Sky Marketing.
Not yet.
Okay.
But the flip there is this is now 99 2000. The incubator emerging technology is out over the Can company in Canton. And this guy, Steve Crawford, is kind of mentoring me. Like, he's like, dude, this is how you have to sell a website. This is what a business does. I'm learning everything from the ground up. This is what a scope of work is. You know what I mean? So he realizes very quickly that he's mentoring me and he needs really and should hire me instead. So I took my first really and only job since I graduated working for him. And we did a really crazy run in 2000 into 2001, right before I started Blue Sky, which is the email company. And so that was really interesting because that was what we referred to back in history as the .com bomb, right? So all the VC monies went into, if you had a .com domain, you could raise $5 million. Like, it was like ridiculous, right? And there's multiple examples of that. But one thing that did that fundamentally shaped, I think, gave me the confidence and the ability to move forward with Blue Sky was that guy, Steve, threw me into the pit so many times, right? And, just figure it out, right? And so it was hiring people, it was selling, it was project management, it was like directing the engineers. I had no idea what the hell I was doing really, but I made it up as I went along and worked with the information I had. And the business grew. I mean, we got to 20 or 30 people inside of 18 months, but it was really frothy,
What was that business called?
0 to 80. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was just a really crazy time. So, and that was about a year and a half into that is when I split off with my co-founder, Rich, and we said, let's try to figure out our own business. And so we did. And that was called Blue Sky Factory. And that was 2001. Right in the right where we are right now, 2001, which is crazy, long time ago. And so,
but not that long ago.
But not that long ago, right? What is time, right? But it was
not that far.
Interesting timelines, Ron. But so Blue Sky. The one thing you'll note, one thing you're going to hear from me is that I'm not a venture backed kind of entrepreneur. Like I'm not the guy who went out and raised millions of bucks and did that whole thing. The Blue Sky, we just couldn't raise money is what I learned really quickly. Really interesting story is I remember once I was running around town trying to make payroll and I was willing to give up 5% of the company for $25,000 and I couldn't get it. And so at one time the bank account was $20 and I posted that receipt right on my desk. So anytime it was above, I knew I had been in worse times. But Blue Sky, is real interesting. It brings you back to the email side of things. I really just saw my partner and I, Rich, saw the opening in email marketing, and he was able to do duct tape and bubble gum, kind of put a prototype together, get
There's
something
like no
that works.
MailChimp. There's nothing off the shelf.
Nothing at the time. We were also over at Tide Point, and so right next to us was advertising.com, Imagination, Under Armour, all these companies, right? And so, and Weber Shandwick, with the largest PR agency. And so this is another story of tenacity and resilience. So one of our interns said, you should knock on this guy's door down at Weber. He's the VP Interactive. Now, VP Interactive 2001, 2002 is totally different, obviously, than it is today. But this was the emerging channels, emails, one of them, right? And so the clients are starting to ask about it. I just kept knocking on the guy's door until he took our meeting. Long story short, they scale us across the entire country. They're 80 or 90% of our business. We build the business up. We bounce around Tide Point. And 5 years into it, 2006, the SaaS wave was just screaming at us. It's like APIs, people want to hit the send button on their own. You got to build we need something that's a self-service software. This is when the MailChimps were coming up and the exact targets and all the landscape was like starting to carve out. Are you an SMB player, an enterprise player,
and you're like a service provider
mid-market?
technically at this point with some tech support, or were you a tech company?
We were a service-based. So what we would do is we'd go to the agencies like Weber and they would outsource all that to us and we would handle it and be their email sender on behalf of their clients. So we would do their clients list management, do the sending, and give them a nice interface to
manage service.
We needed to build that entire workflow into software, and so we did. And it took $1 million, and it took a year to build.
Did you raise for that, or were you able to?
I was able to fund it through the business. Yeah, it's amazing. Like
finance it through the, or like you did cash in hand to be able to do that? If you don't mind me asking that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think that, well, number one, we never raised $1 of any money at Blue Sky Factory. Actually, it was 100% bootstrapped. So 5 years into it, my partner and I decided to split up. I bought him out of the business, and then I ran it the next 5 years. And yeah, amazingly, I was able to cash flow that whole thing, the build. It took a long time, but
and that was your plan, more or less. You knew you wanted to invest in something. It sounds like back to the kind of floppy disk. You were chasing something bigger than email. It sounds like going into email.
Yeah, because I knew that software is changing just like it is now again, right? SaaS was just starting, really. Salesforce.com for CRM, all these things. And I also was starting to get the bubblings of the social media landscape that was starting to emerge. This is now circa 2007, 2008, right? So yeah, that's right when, Twitter launched, Facebook, et cetera, all these things were just starting to bubble, on the front end.
And through your clients, your partners, you're getting a bird's eye view directly into the industry at that point.
Yeah. And I also saw the way the data could connect between social and social data, and email, and the customer relationship. I was very focused on the clients back then too, trying to build software that they wanted. And our niche was, let's say we were mid-tier, we were mid-level. So we were going after, not enterprise contracts, but we had a nice contract with Live Nation, which was then Signatures Network, which was their artist merchandising. So we would manage, U2's fan list, Ozzy's. It was great. We had a bunch of really cool things, and we'd power their promotions.
Were you still doing managed services for them on the platform?
That was all SaaS. No, so after we built that, it was a self-service platform.
So you guys kind of pivoted your entire operations away from any client service, more to support at that point?
Great question. Actually not. We actually layered in the software and then tiered our clients based on their revenue and their needs, and then cross-sold hybrid account management services to them all day long to make them a better marketer.
So you're still offering the same stuff you did before, but in packages and bundles on top of the software fee at that point.
Creative refresh once a month.
Disrupted your own business more or less.
We'll do a deliverability review. We'll do a list growth analysis. And then they put strategies together. And
any competitors left from that? Like, did anybody else see the writing on the wall the way you guys did in your space or in adjacent spaces, or were you guys really unique in kind of being ahead in that?
We were the unfunded, we were the classic tale of the unfunded, non-venture backed, hack their own way out of it, and hack their own way through the maturity of an industry, right? Like we were all sending emails on a CPM basis, price per thousand, and we just watched it go from here down to here, and we watched the whole advertising ecosystem, online advertising ecosystem emerge. Our neighbors right next door, John Scott Ferber, the whole crew at ad.com, just we're crushing it at the time. What was your specific question?
No, I'm just, I guess, did everybody else fail? Because that's such a, with AI is such a disruptive force right now. Social media was such a disruptive force at the time.
Yes.
And the democratization of technology, enabling all these people to get into the market without you having to do everything for them, let alone you being able to serve more customers and being able to pivot your business. Like this is before, the lean startup, right? This is before the world we know, TikTok, and this is like you're doing this on your own without a textbook. And I'm sure John Doerr's out there. There's examples, but like you kind of figured it out. Did other people in your industry figure it out locally, regionally, in the industry in general, or were you guys really unique in just being tech focused against a lot of your, like, say, service provider competitors? I guess is my question.
So the way we really differentiated ourselves was we just layered down the client service really heavy. I would say this, I was always proud of the software that we built as a company, and listen, we had 600 businesses on it, so I'm very proud of it. When we actually ended up selling the company, it was like the top, I think, performing asset of the suite of products that the company had. But our whole thing was thought leadership, right? And innovation around the product without getting too far ahead of the market, like kind of anticipating what the clients were going to want, right? Like, so integrating share to social, the first time, first ESP to link emails to be able to inject the email content into like a LinkedIn or a tweet or on a Facebook, and then be able to track and do analytics on that, identify influencers on your email list. So we were pushing the boundaries on that kind of stuff. But our marketing mix, just to give you a taste of it, was, outside of the monthly newsletter, there was an ebook once a quarter, a podcast once a week. We did Blue Sky Factory TV. There was a blog post every single day. We give our clients a voice and let them tell their stories. We give our employees a voice, let them tell, their experiences. Everything was rooted back to our tagline, making you a better marketer. As long as it could point back to that, and obviously was in context, we wanted to promote it. And so what happened, with a combination of being really early and turning the marketing organization into a publishing organization, which is effectively what we did, editorial calendar, content, production, early streaming stuff, nothing like we're doing today. So it was definitely hacky at best. We layered that on with the physical and bridged what I like to call the digital gap in between where the customers that we wanted to reach which were the trade shows, very targeted markets. It was really mapping out sort of strategically and aligning ourselves with the organizations where it allows us to bridge the physical. And then we'd go in and do the trade show, bring the team, host a dinner, do a seminar, throw a really killer. We were really known for having good times. And we had a great holiday party, and we put on some really good events. And so that, differentiating us from, the bigger players who are VC funded, who could probably do everything I just said times 100. It really, it gave us bigger reach earlier because there wasn't as much noise, right? And so we were out there establishing ourselves as thought leaders. And so the in-persons turned into the speaking gigs and the panels and the panel moderations. And like, we just created this machine of like momentum on kind of defining the market, working towards, email as the digital glue is what we called it. I still believe that
today. Which remains, yeah.
Still the digital glue. Here we are, 2025, right? Email is dead, socials, all that stuff. We were fighting against it and just saying, no, it's not. We used to have huge, I just threw it out, actually. It was funny. I just came across the email as a digital glue. It had like an old Elmer's glue box, and it was like all the social media icons in it. So we'd try to be a defining, influencing voice around perspective and thought leadership. And that always just led to like people wanting to work with us.
And then you sold it.
And then we sold it. Yeah.
Do you think that was that the change from being like, hey, this is cool, I can do email marketing, we can get contracts, to like, wow, we can grow and scale this thing if we market ourselves properly? Would you say marketing was a definitive, winning part of the solution, like beyond tech, beyond service? Like, would you say marketing is what helped you accelerate into an acquisition or a sale? Sorry.
Yeah, I would be 100%. It contributed. Just everything I just told you. Yeah. And then like,
is that persist for your other ventures and businesses? Like, is marketing this, is it that important fundamentally, I guess?
Yeah. Because it's like, we're telling stories, right? We're telling really, technical marketing stories around email and experiences and, things that are shaping the industry. So I think though towards the end it got really good. I mean, I'd be remiss not to mention, Chris Penn, who was my VP of strategy, and DJ Waldo, who we hired, and he was our director of engagement and community. These are not roles that existed at the time. Director of community, I was like, what? You're an email marketing company. But Chris used such a great, he was able to take all the momentum of the things I told you about and get him into the right channels and into the right partnerships and put us in the right places as well. And I think that, the way we generated leads and worked our funnel and got our demo to close rate to be 50%, which is freaking crazy, was all attributed to a lot of hard work and effort.
And a lot of emails.
And a lot of emails, yeah. And a lot of content, and a lot of content.
So you at this point,
so this is
bought
2000,
and sold a company.
So this is 2000. Now we're I'm just tracking the timeline for
exactly.
it. So that was 10 years of my life.
To make an interactive map. Yeah.
So yeah, it was 2011.
What was that like selling your company? I mean, what was that?
It was a little surreal. Yeah. It was for all the good stuff that comes with it. It was also like a very abrupt ending for me. I was going 150 miles an hour for 10 years of my life. Right. I started dating my now wife when I started the company. I was single, then I was married, then I was, a lot of life happened. My daughter was born in 2009. And the whole time I'm cranking this thing and we're growing every single fucking year. I'm just like, just trying to put everything I could back into it. Right. And we just reinvested in the business constantly and hired really great people. At least we tried to. And the ones that weren't great, they didn't hang out too long. It was a really good culture we had there. But like you're going like 150 miles an hour and then we do this deal and it was like 10 years of my life. And it was, it was just one of these situations where I could have been the guy who took the next $5 million or $10 million in investment from VCs. And I was looking at that and I was like, you know what? I'm in 8 years at this point, 9 years at this point. Maybe I could probably raise, I would say, venture on a pretty good valuation. But I knew I would be signing up for another 5 or 10 years, and I just was like, life. Right. And so we did the deal. It was great. But what happened there was really quickly, it was 3 companies trying to combine as one. And so, there was no role for me. Which is really interesting, but what
do I do with my hands?
It was just like I had to make sure everybody's job. I wasn't looking for anything. I was trying to take care of my people, make sure they all had. We're gonna be going along.
Did you keep driving to work and just not going in?
It was so funny you asked that because I actually did, and I just kept going to the office for 2 weeks, and I had a killer. I had the theater on Cross Street was our office at this point in time, right?
Place was awesome.
So I had that office right when you walked in, right? It was like all, it was nice. It had a lot of natural light, which is why I liked it.
And it was right next door to the 8 by 10, which is conveniently located.
There was a lot. It was a good time, yeah. And at the time, I was only living 3 blocks south on Charles Street. So yeah, I was on this thing where I would go back every office, and I could tell that Doug, our COO, who was now a guy in charge, he went with the deal, and I was, that whole story is really interesting. But I could tell he wanted the office. He's like, Greg, yeah, you don't have to come into the office anymore. I'm
not quite Milton, but almost there. Yeah,
I'm like, all right.
You loved it. It was your baby. I mean, I can really see and hear that.
Really,
you're very proud of it. It sounds like.
Yeah, it was a challenge for me because it was like boom, and then beep. There's nothing to do.
You could, but it's for a period. I don't know the terms of the deal, but it sounds like you could have just done nothing there for a little bit. Did you do that? Did you take the time to take a step back, and then how did you decide that you wanted to get right back into the whole thing?
That's a good question. I've thought about that a lot too. The way I did actually play it was So I think this summer, there was just kind of like the summer was like a wind down. My wife and I went on a trip to Italy. Our daughter was 2 at the time. It was like a 2-week trip, and it was really cool. But it was also interesting trying to potty train a kid all through these little cafes in Italy. Now it was awesome. But I came back and I started twisting my thumbs like real quick. I guess I have the bug, I guess they call it. And so, but it was interesting, which is where we intersected too, is, you know, I didn't want to start another company, but I did want to like figure out a way to like make it better for the next generation. So I asked myself, like, what do I wish was in place, you know, when I started Blue Sky that wasn't, right? And that was the genesis of Betamore, which I linked up with Sean Lane and the beginning Mike Brenner. And we took, you know, we took the top floor of 1111 Light Street and launched a campus for entrepreneurship, you know, as a for-profit originally, then converted to nonprofit. And it was doing that. And then...
And like nothing to do with money for you, it sounds like. It's just purely because you love entrepreneurships and you wanted to help other founders? Or was it like maybe this is a feeding ground for other opportunities?
I just knew that like we needed a place for collision, serendipity, people to connect, not have to worry about signing huge office leases, a spot where people could like chill and mingle. We could program it with anything from happy hours to talks.
Because there was a vacuum. It didn't exist in Baltimore.
Well, we had the ETC, right. We had Beehive. The co-working thing was just, again, you know, just had started. Now we've got, you know, it's a lot of stuff's activated.
The Austin style influence didn't exist really in Baltimore until that moment, I'd say. It wasn't like possible to do that here. If it still is to a degree, but I mean, the culture didn't exist. A Bay Area style startup culture didn't exist here.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, but it was there, but it was bubbling. Right?
It was
but people
all
were
over in the
for
places
place
where you were working with AOL.com and had access to those kinds of people, but it wasn't a structural part of the city, I'd say, at that point.
Right. I mean, because the GBTC was kind of winding down. Not really.
There's programs in theory for it, but it wasn't private citizen. It wasn't driven by the culture. It was driven by the government wanting to help fund the culture. It seemed like more than anything at that point, prior to that moment.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's a change in the world. I don't know, but these incubators are popping up more in more cities. It wasn't unique to Baltimore, but you guys brought it here. I mean, you brought that kind of, and it's still here to a degree. It really has changed a lot of ways, the city.
It's changed a lot. And but it was really interesting to be, was that 2012? And then 2013 is when we opened up the first campus in Federal Hill, of course.
Were you like all in on that, or did you
like?
You can't escape?
Listen, I was, you know, I spent a bunch of money, and I
was that it for you, or was this one endeavor in your mind of many you were going to try, or did you really feel at the time that this was like the thing you should focus on?
Just one.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to do something to like give back, and like that literally is like the genesis of the idea behind Betamore. Was never to be like, you know,
where entrepreneurship was the basis and making money was the basis of Blue Sky, you wanted to do something radically different.
Yeah, my co-founders Sean and Mike, we all want to do it, right? We just, you know, Mike saw the delta in education where like colleges and universities leave off, and what the real needs of like today's companies are looking for. And so we launched Betamore Academy. We ran programs. You know, we had full stack development. You know, back end full stack data analytics.
It was badass office space and a place for people to gather.
Killer spot. Awesome. You know, real bright, colorful, big kitchen. Constantly putting coffee out. Somebody sponsor a happy hour every single week. You know, we had Kevin Plank come through. We had, you know, VCs come through. We had pitch nights. We had build a website and a weekend program. But we also had like a big glass wall where if you were an actual, you know, you were getting down to it, we'd rent you a desk for $150 a month. And
great conference rooms too, big whiteboards.
Killer conference rooms. Yeah. And so that was a good run. And that one there, at the same time we launched one in the city garage in conjunction with Fort Covington, which is now Baltimore Peninsula. And then we took over 13,000 square feet there and launched another campus, Betamore, which is everything at 1111 Light Street, but like 5 times bigger. Huge event space. We had dedicated offices there, co-working, and then we had a bunch of shared space. It was really cool to see the community come together. We launched Beta City, which was our annual fundraiser. We had a good run there. We did 5 of those. And the actual organization is still around. We don't have a physical footprint, but we're not doing much these days. So,
what was the change there? Was it just the market shifting? Was it an issue with commercial real estate?
It was the COVID slam.
Because you guys were renting space.
We went over to the Hohen Lithograph building at again. Bill Struber was doing that one, and we were going to set up another location there.
Do you think it might come back in a physical form?
I'm not sure, but that definitely sense of physical space was really huge, and going back to the genesis of why we started that. But like I would say, like anything is possible. You never know, right? It does turn out though that serendipity and collision that we were going after really did spark a lot of cool things and a lot of cool stories. From people finding their business partner, landing their first customer, getting a term sheet from a VC because they were raising capital. Being able to grow from stage A to stage B without having to worry about, what a commercial lease may look like for them. Being able to program a skill set over a weekend or through a Betamore Academy course and watch somebody who's working at a startup get upskilled,
That's some major companies came through those walls.
Yeah,
yeah. Cyberfox or
Zero Fox.
Yeah, that was a big one, right?
Another just awesome example of, tenacity and, he said, I'm going to take a public, he sat in the corner with his co-founder, Evan, and they were in the corner and like in the corner facing the wall. Like they didn't want to even look out. And so I've come to, understand that they were under NDA for their, or whatever, non-compete, whatever it may be. They were locked up from their previous acquisition and they were planning on this one. And then they launched it. And
wow.
He said, we're going to take this company public. And very rare does that happen, but they did. It was wild. Yeah, but no, we have a lot of great companies. Right now, Be Well's doing awesome too. It's another healthcare company.
Were you investing in these companies while they were coming through, or you're just really just looking to kind of foster their development at that point?
Well, that brings in like another aspect of the ecosystem work that that I was doing at the time, which was the Baltimore Angels, which I still do. And I mean, so at the time, where are we going back now? 2013. Yeah. Like Dave Troy and a couple other folks were trying to get early stage investing going for entrepreneurs so that the ones that were looking for capital to try to get their ideas off the ground it was very choppy back then. It really kind of still is, Tedco doing deals, TCP doing deals, that's local. And established, right? And so back then it was like people wanted to contribute and not by like making donations, by investing, getting into these companies and trying to support that base layer of seed/angel funding. And so there was a bunch of these things happening at the conference room at the ETC, but there was no structure around them, right? And people were driving up from DC or down from Philly or in from wherever in the state of Maryland to pitch us. And, so I took it over and organized it and started, charging a membership fee, committing to monthly meetings. Didn't know a thing about early stage investing, and just went with it, right? I knew how to organize people and how to do events.
Like the floppy disk. It's kind of like that same analogy. Like you saw then at that point, it sounds like you saw an opportunity with kind of investing as a business, which I understand correctly, kind of at a somewhat professional level. You've invested in companies, right?
I've invested in a lot of companies, yes.
Yeah. Like it wasn't part of your thinking. It doesn't seem like it just kind of happened organically by you.
Well, this was
immersing yourself
part of
into
it, right? Like I just, I wanted to learn myself. So it was also, and having the time to be able to organize the folks to assemble effectively and also to find the startups that were at the right stage and ready. We learned a lot. I mean, there was a lot. If I look back over 10 years of doing it, it was like, wow. I mean, we did get better and better. That's one thing I can say, but there was definitely some, we used to keep we just learned a lot. We used to keep the people pitching in one room and, not let them hear the other people pitch at the beginning. It was like, why do you guys do that? I'm like, I don't even know. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I did one. I got rejected for funding from that group, but I do remember doing the pitch. It was a little bit weird, but it was a great opportunity in a city, frankly, where there aren't many opportunities.
Where did you pitch though?
So maybe it wasn't a Betamore. Maybe it was a Betamore. I don't know. It was just like a very formal, but not formal. It just seemed a little stuffy. But
stuffy. Right.
Most angel investor groups are like that because nobody necessarily knows where to go or what to do. They're looking for group thought, I feel like. So you have people that are a little on the fence, like any kind of committee, and then you have like somebody who's committed to the deal or will advocate for it, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I guess if the numbers are there, and maybe the angels have evolved at this point, as most angel groups or local investors have, of like the numbers have to be there. You used to be able. We were talking before we started about the .com bus, or getting a .com to stick valuate for $5 million just by having it and no business behind it. That existed for a while. I mean, when we started our company, we raised most of our capital on a pitch deck. We didn't have the product yet, and we were able to actually get enough support to get our company started by showing a vision of what we wanted without having it. I don't think that world really exists anymore because people are shrewder. So have you seen that investors are getting much more metrics driven than they were? Or like, is it really about a feeling of if they're connected to the mission or vision?
I think they've gotten much more fundamental around the businesses, right? Particularly now. Really wanting to see short pathways to revenue, if not a path to revenue scaling, with clear inflection points as well. This is kind of standard, but like really clear inflection points on the raise. I would say I have not been actively early stage investing now for a number of years. COVID knocked the wind out of the group from, it was, again, here we go, sense of place, right? We did the pivot online. We did a couple deals. It was like you lost the membership fees. I had $50,000 to $100,000 of sponsors every year. It's the law firm, the bank, the accounting firm, all the service providers that were in the room. And so I was able to hire a full-time person to do that. So we've been really just focused on managing the investments that we have, and that's been great. And it's also interesting to see things go from the beginning through years and seeing the cycles that companies go through. Now, of course, as you we mentioned earlier, it's like it's a brave new world again. So these kind of like performance metrics, and these KPIs that investors are looking for are definitely changing.
But it's so funny because you bootstrapped your company, really, and you're such a grinder, and you're all about the hustle. And it's really inspiring in a world, I think, where everybody thinks you need to raise a bunch of capital to do something, but in reality, like it, especially now with AI, I mean, you really don't. And I think anything's possible if people put their minds to it and focus and learn. I'm
so excited about that, by the way.
Yeah, it really is incredible. I mean,
I did just one joke on that though, but it's kind of not. I mean, it's like when I started my latest venture, it was 3-4 months after ChatGPT had just launched, so it was really like it was still very early on it, and I just was like, I had this vision, like we were talking about, and I was saying like, yeah, let me introduce you to me and my 10 co-founders, except I'm the only human, because it's like. And then you watch, like, over the course of 18 months I've been doing this, now we're at like agentic AI,
What is that?
Like we're, AI agents are like effectively working with each other and coordinating tasks. And I mean, it's just like
replacing human beings.
We're not even
augmenting and helping, I like to say, but I mean, I could see it as a threat if I was in an industry.
I do too. I think it's
coming, but it's not. I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
We don't have to go down the rabbit hole yet on that, but if unless you want to.
No, I mean, kind of the question was like, you've invested in companies and you've evangelized the investment in companies. Is it necessary for every company? Is there a certain kind of company that absolutely requires capital?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in the market we're in now, where angel investing and, the barrier to entry for investing is lower. People can invest in things and put money into it without being an accredited investor, all that kind of stuff. Like, why should people invest in a startup at this point when, candidly, I mean, most of the things that need to be done without any capital. I'd say for these people to be successful, making money and building a product, whatever it might be, like, is that capital injection still needed? Is VC needed anymore? I guess is really my bigger question. Not VC as a practice, but like people will take capital and financing, but like as an investment instrument to hire engineers, like is that necessary?
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, I would say, if you've got a product development roadmap that you're producing something physical, you probably need capital. If you're doing anything in healthcare that requires like an FDA clearance, you need capital, right, to shepherd through.
But does it help the founder? I mean, if the founder can avoid as a founder and an investor, if you can avoid,
listen, I haven't
getting investors,
raised
should you? I
a
guess
dollar.
Yeah.
No one's ever given me a dollar. So.
Someone give this man $1.
No, I haven't asked really, So I mean, I've been on my own, and I'm not saying I'm not going to this time around. I very much, we've got an MVP. My whole goal is I want to build an MVP, which I know is, maybe we shouldn't call it an MVP anymore or whatever. People are talking about that, but it is a minimal viable product, really, and so. I wanted to build that. I wanted to integrate it with Medicare, which is the largest payer of healthcare in the United States of America, the federal government. And I wanted to launch 2 pilots, maybe up to 5 in the payer market and the provider market, and prove out that this software can help people, more effectively manage their aging loved ones and be able to demonstrate better health outcomes, lower cost of care.
And talking about Twilight.
Twilight, right. So this time, I want to
from email to healthcare. That's an incredible
It's crazy jump.
It really
right?
is.
So, but going back to the raising capital, investing, like at that point, I would look at potentially raising capital. But it comes with a whole set of different things. What I'm saying.
You know
what I mean?
Like you know the rules of the game now, whereas like it might not have made sense for you to invest to take capital with Blue Sky because the unknowns were too great. But now that you know so much and that you can leverage the VC capital like a traditional financing to accelerate growth, take market share, right? I'm sure you're looking at it in a very different way.
Totally different way, right?
I guess if you had that, because there's so many first-time founders that I'd say are so hungry to get funding as a validator, let alone, I'd say it's probably not the thing you want to look for overall if you're getting into any kind of startup.
I don't think you should look for funding. No, I think you should grind it out.
But if you do have a good deal, bring them to Baltimore Angels, or is it Baltimore Angels trying to serve as a conduit to help those people kind of get off the ground?
No, I mean, I would not say that right now because we're not actively.
Or but any group like that. Let's just say, angel 100%. Investors in general,
Yeah, you'll find like, but investors can be extremely value added, and you just got to pick the right one.
Right. I mean, if it's somebody with more than just cash for equity that's going to take half of your company or something like that.
Totally. Like there's totally strategic people who, and they might even not put a lot of money in, but like it's great to have them affiliated with your company. You can also, but yeah, I mean, I think now if you were going to start something right now, like you really should look at all the landscape of what you can do with automation, AI, depending on what it is. I'm very tech oriented.
Well, and you can't stop. I think that's your tagline. It's like never stop, right? So like, so by that virtue, here you are now implementing what you're seeing, the writing on the wall with AI, and you started a new company recently outside of all the other things you were doing. Like, how did you, I personally know a little bit of the backstory, but I guess, can you just kind of give us that jump from I'm doing investing, I'm doing community development, and like community development to I want to get into the healthcare industry. How did that leap happen?
That's it's another twisty one for you. I hope I'm keeping everyone entertained now.
So I'm enjoying it.
Okay. So, COVID, right? It kind of comes a little mix of everything right here. It's really interesting. I'm realizing that as I'm telling you it. But so I was working, well, we don't even have to worry about that. So let me just go into 2020, COVID hits, and my co-founder from Betamore, Sean Lane, he rolled out probably 2014, a year after we opened it, and went back to Ohio, and he launched this company, which became Olive.
He's like a Navy SEAL too, right?
He's retired Air Force.
Badass guy, yeah.
Really awesome. He's an amazing human being, really. One of the smartest people I know too. So he's launched Olive at this point, is in its, I don't know, it's a healthcare automation company. So he's started with biometric fingerprints so that we could fight the opioid crisis in Ohio and then scale that to the U.S. to make sure that the wrong drugs weren't getting in the wrong people's hands, right? Because it was really a problem, as we all know. And so that's eventually became, it was called Crosschecks at the time. Then it became Olive.
And your buddy started this company. You knew nothing about healthcare beyond your early EMT training. And you're just fascinated. Like the floppy disk again, you're just like this is cool. You saw the industry from his eyes, or really were you attracted to the industry before that?
Well, I mean, I don't know the exact stats, but the pivots were in the double digits to get to what Olive was. Olive was a product of on the shelf of Crosschecks. They raised a bunch of money with the V's. This is a perfect venture example. Like, believe in the founder, great idea. Then he realizes there's no interoperability in healthcare. And then the mission is to like let's build the internet of healthcare, right? And there's a big grand vision on how that was supposed to go down. But at the time, he had just raised a bunch of money in 2020, and it was really clear the company was moving toward a platform. So now I'm going to tell you about my second job since college, because Sean recruited me in and said, it's really clear we have all this distribution. We're in over 1,200 hospitals. This is our product vision. We're going to build the internet of healthcare. We're doing revenue cycle automation, all this other stuff that I didn't even know what it meant at the time. I want to launch a venture studio. Why don't are you interested in coming on as managing partner? And I'm like, I don't know anything about healthcare. He's like, yeah, but startups and software. I'm like, I do. He's like, you could figure out healthcare. And so that's how this whole thing started. So
it's not like you would have followed Sean in any industry had he created that opportunity, because you guys are just buddies and that he's on to something.
But the funniest conversation was, I was like, dude, how does this work? He's like, well, you'll have to be an employey.
They said that to Elon Musk recently too, actually.
Okay. I'm like W-2? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I've never outside of Blue Sky. He's like, you report to me. And so that was, it was a good dynamic. And so that was October.
Had you done any healthcare deals prior to that? Like, did you have anything?
Yes. We had done some healthcare deals in the Angel Group, right. Software.
So you're somewhat familiar with that.
Slightly.
Yeah.
This is I didn't know what Medicare was or CMS or any of these things that I throw. I'm now the guy throwing out acronyms. I'm realizing that so I'm getting tossed in this world. But anyway, long story short, 2020 October, we start the venture studio, and I go all the way through the end of 22. And so in that time, we recruited an amazing team of about 15, at the peak 17 people, all virtually, literally interviewed every one of them virtually. They were all over the country, and started 6 companies in just under 2 years with that exact same group. So 6 different founders. And it was during that experience, 21 into 22, where, my mom was up in Jersey by herself. My brother's in DC, parents are divorced. And I just watched the nosedive happen to the point where it was like, I have to do something, right? Why are you walking with a cane for like 7 months? Something with my foot. Anyway, it turns out her Achilles is torn, right? She can't figure out how to get her Achilles torn. Lou Schoen, Jeremy's dad, I get her down here. Jeremy's dad fixes her Achilles. I'm thinking, all right, well, that wasn't too bad. And then she's recovering in my house. And I'm like, do you need me to do anything up in Jersey? And it's long story short, the mortgage was in default. The car was about to be repossessed. Everything just dropped off in her cognitively. And the ankle became the least of my issues. And so, basically, moved her down here. There was a cognitive diagnosis, moved her in with us, moved her into assisted living, closed the whole chapter of New Jersey out of our life, moved down here. And like I said, and it again, I'm picking up on some interesting themes having this conversation with you. It's really wild. I got to the point so caregiving is very much peaks and valleys, right? And if you're thrown into it like most people are, it's like fishing with no bait, blindfolded in the dark. I mean, it's like, who are your doctors? Well, how do you advocate for this person? So I had to figure all this shit out. And it was the 6 most brutal months of my life because it's your mom, right? No one else is, I'm there. My brother's doing all the moral support. He's in DC. I've got the time. I'm like, I got to focus on this. I'm the only one who's going to do this, right? And so once I got to this is all through Olive. I'm launching the companies. I got the employees, team members all over the place, losing my mind, hitting pause on. I'll never forget. There was like times where I was on Zoom calls. I'd hit pause on the video, pause on mute, run inside, check my mom's blood sugar, give her insulin, take it back, lock it back up, and then get back on and be like, it was that kind of lifestyle. It was just that phase. So once I got it, like, I would say the peak hits a valley. I had asked myself the same question I did after I sold Blue Sky. I was like, if I had to do it all over again, what do I wish I had, right? And so that's where the vision for the Illuminator came on, which is what I'm building now. And so the Illuminator is called that because everyone's in the dark. And what we do is we go into these healthcare portals and platforms like Medicare or CareFirst or Aetna, United, any big payer, and or EHR like Epic. And we pull in all the data that makes no sense to anybody when in the language that they talk, but we take it and translate it all using AI to make it actionable and easy to consume.
A lot of codes, right? It's like
CPT codes, diagnosis codes.
Which you probably needed to learn as an EMT, right?
I didn't know anything about it. No. Because EMT is first responder.
No codes. You're just like,
we're just like taking care of the person, right? But this is like, what's a CPT code? Like, I didn't know what a CPT or an ICD code.
But the computer does, right?
Well, what's in like an EOB, explanation of benefits file that comes out of a payer that gives somebody.
Is there anybody else like you guys out there? Is there anybody who's tried to do something similar?
There are. I don't know exactly.
Because my insurance company's never offered me anything. Definitely, nobody's ever tried to help me make the healthcare system
Everybody I talk to about this is like, dude, can you just make that for me? Like, I want to use it.
Right.
And I'm like I'm sitting here like at the Medicare population. I'm trying to do, it's like, can be like pulling teeth, trying to get people to get signed up on their Medicare.gov portal, because that's how you use consent. Because you have to give consent to share your data. And then what we do is we pull the data in and transform it all using our own logic. And then we define everything using OpenAI, ChatGPT, the platform.
So you have your own model that you're applying to that effectively.
Yeah. So we take we do our own data transform and our own data model, and then based on that data model, we run all sorts of prompts.
Are you guys using the agents, or are you using just
the platform
GPTs?
right now? GPTs right now.
$20 a month.
No, we're on the platform, so that's just based on utilization, but it's very cheap. It's unbelievable.
I pay $20 a month, and I can't believe how much more I get than everybody else.
I pay the $20 a month for the personal use. I really, honestly, I'm getting ready to add a zero, because the $200 a month.
It's going to be that much. Yeah.
It's like literally going back to, hi, my name is Greg. Let me introduce you to my co-founders.
Right.
I'm the only human. It's like, it's an agent.
So are you the only founder? Are you the only person in this company, or do you have other partners?
So I have a co-founder, Justin Shaper, who is in Dallas, Texas, who I met through my experience at Olive. And he's awesome. He is our CTO. And he, this is not a full-time endeavor yet, because I've been funding this thing for 2 years, almost 2 years by myself. So he's co-founder, and he's currently working as CTO of a company called Lighthouse. And then I have just an amazing group of people that are product development team that I've just been lucky enough to be connected to through my connections at Olive and people here locally. And it's so wild to be. It's really wild to have launched a venture studio with a team of 15 all over the country, and some cases never even meeting some of these folks who were working for me. Getting people together was tough during COVID. And being in a position now where everybody except Justin is here in Baltimore, and it's wild.
So you're in the throes of it. You guys are like actively.
It's just me.
Selling this product. I mean, is it in full market mode, or are you still kind of developing things?
No, we're in pilot mode right now. So we're trying to. Those pilots I was talking about earlier is like what I've learned this time is I'm building software for up to a certain point. So I could tell you, I'm pretty sure. Sorry if I'm pretty sure that most people need to know, if they want to advocate for somebody like their mom or their dad or their grandma or husband, wife, right? Like knowing who their doctors are, what medications they're on, and what conditions they may have are like a base level understanding with consent, of course, from your i.e. loved one, right? And so I just need to, I could build it now in any direction. This is also the case for funding versus no funding. Like I'm still building clarity around, where this could go. I'm still exploring a bunch of different options. Do I go the payer side? Do I work with providers? Do I work with long-term care provider insurance companies who would be totally incentivized to give this product to their customers and their AORs, they call them, assignment of representatives, caregivers, typically. And so I'm trying to find the go-to-market. I'm trying to find the go-to-market.
It sounds like you've achieved so much in your career that you get to be somewhat selective about your customers. It sounds like, which is a seemingly unique place. And it's a lot of control.
Very privileged. I'm going to recognize that I'm taking. That I'm very aware of the position that I'm in to be able to do that. And it's not so much. It is in a way though, because I just I want to go about this the right way. And I think
you could raise $50 million and it wouldn't matter because you're in control of the outcomes now. Whereas I think maybe 10 years ago, that might not have been the case, just not knowing the market and the industry of
that's
right. Right. And being personally affected by this, it sounds like you have a much bigger mission within this is, I don't know exactly the tech implications of the market, but it sounds like you've kind of stumbled upon a major market.
It's a huge market. Yeah. It's unbelievable how big it is because everyone's getting older. There's something called there's silver tsunamis happening. There's over 10,000 people a day turning 65 in the country for the next, I think, I don't know. I should know that's that off the top of my head, but it's at least like 7 to 10 years. It's a tsunami of people being Medicare eligible. So, there's the challenge of aging at home and having all the right services and the lack of supply on, places people have to go if they choose and have to leave their homes. The industry just itself is just... going back to not having the internet of healthcare, that applies as well to every aspect of it. And when you get to the aging population and folks who need caregivers or live in assisted living, the family that is typically making those decisions, i.e. people like me, they're like the third wheel throughout the entire experience.
Yeah, we're the ones who need to know the most information to help our parents or loved ones.
Well, how about I'm hiring you, right? Like, so, and I get it, and I get how it's gotten here. And so I'm just trying to say, I bet you we can make this experience way better for everybody.
Well, maybe healthcare more broadly, because if we can't stop innovating, clearly. And I guess that's my question, I guess, now that you've gotten into this groove and you're building this thing, do you want to go that far? Do you want to take it to the next level? Or do you want to see what's possible with what you have? How convinced are you that this is the thing that you should dedicate yourself to versus this is an incredible business that somebody should run, I guess is one of my probably shorter questions of the day, but are you there now? Are you at the point where you're ready to do this again? Or are you I'm not so sure if I want to commit myself to something for 10 years?
No, I mean, I'm definitely committed to this. I want to, this is you talk about the baby thing again. It's I've gotten it this far. Healthcare is very tricky. I don't want to build a consumer product and try to sign up for it $5 a month. That's not what I'm trying to do. Or I want Medicare to pay for it, right?
Palantir kind of model applied to.
What's that?
Is Palantir, government contract, kind of big contracts more or less than small. That's kind of the thought.
I'm with conviction. I just have to prove it. And I realize that. But with conviction, I know my software will create better health outcomes, lower the cost of care, and provide more empowered caregivers if they have a seat at the table. And if that happens right there, just that third one, those other two are almost guaranteed because if they're actively engaged and they have the information they know to be able to advocate, again, they're the third wheel right now. We can only go up from here, right? And just giving them some basic utility, right? And tools to use. I think if I prove that out, we could take this thing pretty far. Whether it becomes the platform, I don't know. It could be a piece of it. I have a vision for it that goes well beyond integrating it with Medicare claims. I could tell you that. Because I think we look at social determinants of health in people and all of a sudden you got you learn a lot more, right? Do people have access to healthy food? Do they have transportation to their health care? Is somebody coming around looking after them? or not, right? Do they have a social engagement? Do they have money? Are they poor? Do they live in a crime-ridden area, or are they safe? There's all these things that, like, when you look at like what makes up someone's social determinants of their health, I can see this going where all those types of factors can get collected through different partners, it's all about distribution and where to figure out where the go-to-market is right now. Where's the product market fit, which is what I've determined there's a product market fit. Now it's where do I figure out how to go to market? And once I figure in the one to lean into, I'd love to be able to have this, realize its potential.
And they say college degrees don't matter anymore, but your EMT experience, I think, has actually played a major role in your career development. So that maybe curiosity about medicine or helping people, it seems like it's really kind of percolated now.
Adrenaline and helping people.
But no, it's fascinating, really, that you kind of organically found yourself back in that place. Is anything else interesting you right now, like, company-wise, industry-wise, like that you're looking at? Just in general, I mean, or as a hobby, a technology hobbyist, is there anything outside of healthcare and outside of your day-to-day that you're really kind of into right now? Even a new band, I don't know.
Right now, I'm really into. right now, I'm really into. I can't wait. We're ready to go skiing and snowboarding. So I've been training.
I just got back from Killington up in Vermont.
Nice.
Awesome. My brother-in-law to be's bachelor party, so that was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just to go to on the business side. I really am focused on the AI side of things. It's like, and managing what I call timeline anxiety, which we could talk about too. It's just sort of like, there's no reason to get anxious. There's a lot of timelines I feel like we're converging in, and one of them is like the go-to-market strategy for the business. The other is the product development road cycle. It's another timeline. Like there's all these. So I've found you asked me how I remain calm. I've been working on that one. That's real, because I've found founderitis is what really it's called. And it's just like you're constantly trying to create. And so it's like anybody, artists, my creation is this kind of stuff. It's
one thing Benjamin Franklin said, relentlessness is discontent. Show me a thoroughly satisfied man and I'll show you a failure. So,
right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Right. I mean, I don't think healthcare is as much fun to build in as I think email marketing is. I could tell you that. I mean, it's
no offense to email, might be a little more impactful.
I mean, it's just different dynamics of the industry, like healthcare is really fucked up.
Nobody knows what's going on.
Really
in healthcare.
fucked
so
up.
It's just fascinating that you're illuminating truly like
I'm trying to like take this like hairline thing and being like, hey, this, to figure out how to, build a business out of getting paid from this blob of just craziness. But
do you worry about the Doge stuff at all, or like any of the government stuff? Do you follow this stuff?
I'm following it, and I just think like, we're just in a state of like, we have to see how this thing shakes out. I do think there could be major changes at, HHS, and I do think there could be changes at the Medicare, Medicaid level. Obviously, there's things being announced and things happening. How it all shakes out, I don't know.
I think we need to get RFK on as a panel for the next one.
I think you should.
Yeah, let's try.
And I think that either way, like there's going to be a lot of shifting, obviously, in a lot of different places. But this fundamental basic health thing is where, as long as we're dealing with humans, these things of like who's taking care of people and what conditions do they have. These fundamentals, I think, I'll be good for a while, and then we'll see where the roadmap goes. Every time I feel like I'm getting ready to do a product development push, I have to now find myself asking the question, like, the impact of AI is so big that like the things I really question what I'm building now. Like, I don't know if I need to build that, because I think that's going to be like, a simple prompt in the future. Like don't spend too much time, because like actually, Greg, this whole thing is going to just be a chatbot for person. They're going to talk to their own health data, right? And if you're the caregiver, that's like where it's going, right? Like I'm not trying to be naive on this. Like, so these product development cycles that I used to get into, and you're catching me on the like wheels down. I was up here, I'm landing just getting, okay, now it's time to shift gears and go through the pilots and figure out the business case for the thing. So it's a mind shift, which is fun. It's like a puzzle. But as I see things coming in, like where the possibilities are, I'm thinking about what I need to build in order to fulfill some of these things. And I'm like, AI is right around the corner there, probably for that. So it's just, I'm not making any sense. I'm giving
no, you are.
I'm giving
Risk
you word
mitigation
salad.
and product development, you're making a lot of sense.
But like we're looking at it 360 and being able to look at all and then also see.
But you have to, and people like yourself and I aspire to be, faceted, dynamic entrepreneurs. Like, you have to think about all these things. You don't need to be the best in the world at any one of those things, but you need to be the best version of yourself in implementing those things and getting them going and getting something created. And I mean, like, it's art. It's a form of art to a certain extent. So, like, do you still feel
it is
that sense of passion and love for the game now that you're, a seasoned entrepreneur? Does it kind of feel like the beginning again? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different feeling now. It's just sort of like, I just hope I can, learn and make sure I don't make the mistakes I made in the past, but it's really interesting doing it again with this Netscape 1.0, sort of like, man, we are at tectonic shifts right now on multiple levels. It's so there's that air of excitement, and if I look back on that 25-year cycle ago, when all this was just starting, from the internet perspective, to see what happened, I mean, I think we're in for some really interesting change.
I'd say so for sure. Well, on that note, I guess one final question is, who is your current favorite band?
Who's my current favorite band? It's taking me too long to answer, isn't
That's
it?
Okay. That's okay. There's a lot. I know you listen to a lot of music. You're exposed to a lot of music. So I don't know if there's anything, could be even a local band, if anything that's kind of catching your ear these days.
No.
You're like, no,
I'm pulling a blank.
Whatever's on Spotify. It's funny. I used to seek out music in such a unique way. Like, I'd go to the store, buy the CD, and like, I love music, but I'm not chasing it the way I think I used to.
I'm listening to the stuff he's been making lately.
Austin Litz.
Yeah, I'm listening to more like sound bowls and Chris. Like, dude, I know it's bizarre, but I'll always love live music, and I'll always support the live music ecosystem and artists, and I'm always going to be a champion for that. I haven't been going to a lot of shows lately. I'm Dancing Bears.
You're a little busy, it sounds like.
Yeah, I know, but I carve out time for like the Fish show, and that comes around. But I haven't been doing as many like local shows as I have. But I have been listening to just to finish the thought though. The sound bowls are pretty cool. I've been listening to a lot of like that kind of music lately. It's
kind of like getting in the work mode.
Getting in the work mode, and like so that's a really weak answer, especially for a guy who like loves local bands.
I don't know. You just shouted out our producer. He's a pretty epic musician.
Well, I do love
cool.
Austin Litz's stuff. It's great. And if you
the person's okay, but the musician's fantastic.
And you should check out some of his meditation channel stuff too.
No doubt.
It's really cool.
No doubt. Well, I haven't seen live music in a while, so we should catch a show soon and enjoy that, because it is a great music town, Baltimore, but it's also a great tech town, and you've been an incredible catalyst for both. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me in my new basement studio.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me. Let me. This I think it worked out great. Hopefully, it sounded good.
Thanks so much, and this has been the Further Insights podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Support for this podcast comes from Further Insights, a data-driven marketing firm helping small businesses grow with smart content automation and targeted ad campaigns. Learn more at furtherinsights.com.